President Trump's recent executive order boosting the production of a controversial pesticide, plus Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s defense of that decision, has drawn ire from the Make America Healthy Again movement within the administration's base. Many grassroots MAHA leaders are turning their disappointment into action now ahead of the midterm elections. But Democrats are also working to court the disaffected voters by leaning into some of these health priorities. I want to bring in senior healthcare reporter for Politico, Alice Miranda Olstein. She's been covering this story. And I think it's actually the perfect moment for us to dive deep on this, because when RFK Jr. got brought into the Trump orbit with the endorsement of the president and then being appointed into the cabinet, it was always clear that he was in a different position because he sort of carried the banner of an actual coalition of voters. And now it seems like they might be splintering a bit.
Absolutely. And so I think the height of the hopes at the beginning is contributing to the anger now and the sense of, you know, the words in the interviews I did, betrayal, disappointment. And so, you know, it's not just its executive order. It's also that in a few weeks, the Trump administration is supporting a case before the Supreme Court that would shield these chemical makers from lawsuits by people who said, hey, this chemical gave me cancer, et cetera. And so they're really upset. And they're just upset about, you know, the administration's environmental policies in general, saying this isn't making America healthy again to allow all of those pollutants into our environment, into our food system. And the fact that RFK Jr., he's really had a kind of wobbly message on this. He's sort of defended the president's actions, but then also said it upset him. Sort of trying to thread the needle there.
I'd like to keep your job.
Democrats are looking at all of this, looking at, you know, the outrage that's building in that movement and saying, hey, this could be an opportunity for us ahead of the midterms.
Especially as you watch some of these Democrats talking about it as an example of corporations being able to profit and be protected. It fits this larger message that Democrats are putting out there of systems that work for, to borrow an Elizabeth Warren phrase, the wealthy and well-connected, but not the average American. It fits into affordability. It fits into the way that they talk about Epstein. And now it's fitting into the way that they're trying to take some reluctant MAHA voters and bring them to the Democratic cause. I mean, you also talk about the ways that they're putting ads to this. I mean, this is an actual strategy.
Absolutely. So the organization House Majority Forward, that is trying to win back the House for Democrats, they're putting ads in a lot of these districts that are currently held by Republicans, but Democrats are trying to flip it this November. And they're running these ads saying, look, Kennedy made all these promises to make America healthier again, but he's supporting these policies that are making us sicker instead. And so they really think this could be a winning message. And I talked to some MAHA activists who are, you know, pretty prominent in that community. And they said, you know, this could work, that a lot of MAHA voters they know don't have strong party affiliation. And especially in a year when Trump isn't on the ballot, may be willing to cross over.
I think that's fascinating. And I wonder if we can explore it a little bit more deeply. What are they open to? Is it, I don't think any realignment is permanent these days. Certainly we're watching that play out with Latino voters in Texas and other places. They went Republican by and large, and now they're seeming to at least question that decision. But for MAHA voters who I think are not typically part of any one party coalition, what is the thing that can be said to woo them? Or is it just as simple as, we felt like we got all these promises from RFK Jr., we put him in a place of power by supporting Trump by proxy, and we're just not really getting what we bargained for?
Sure. I mean, Democrats have introduced bills to overturn the recent executive order that you mentioned, for instance. They also were pushing for changes in the Farm Bill, which there was a big fight over that recently on Capitol Hill. And they were pointing out, they were speaking directly to MAHA voters, you know, looking at the camera and addressing them during these, you know, late night hearings, saying, hey, look at what the Republicans are doing on this committee. They're trying to put protections for these, you know, pesticide makers into the Farm Bill. We're the ones fighting to keep the environment clean. And so we'll see if that message makes it out there and really makes a difference.
Do you get the sense that RFK Jr. is doing anything to combat the coalition that he largely politically took advantage of the most? Is he doing anything to try to keep them together or combat this trend of them looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I think, you know, definitely he went on Joe Rogan recently and talked about how he was upset about this.
Couldn't explain the aspirin for pregnant women thing that he's pushed.
Right, exactly. And so, but also he and his allies keep saying over and over, look, we're also putting funding into, you know, regenerative organic agriculture. And that is true, but that doesn't, you know, really cancel out the other pesticide stuff. And so you do see them sweating a little.
Yeah, I think that this is a fascinating micro example of why it's in many ways easier to run for something on broad promises than actually get into government and do this. I mean, it's like in Hamilton, they say that governing is hard, right? And it's true. This is an example.
And the risk is, that these voters, maybe they'll switch over and vote for Democrats, or maybe they'll just stay home because they'll just throw up their hands. And we're in a midterm year where tiny differences in turnout can make all the difference.
Yeah, exactly right. When I look at some of the areas that they are running those ads that you were talking about in Colorado, Iowa, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, if I'm looking at the right districts, and my weird house brain often is thinking about this, some of these places in Iowa, Republicans only kept those seats by like 100 or 200 votes. So peeling off a few dozen people that feel like they've been lied to or promises haven't been held up, it actually could make all the difference. It's a game of centimeters, not a game of inches, even in some of these House races. Senior healthcare reporter for Politico, taking healthcare and politics together because it so often is, Alice Miranda Olstein. Thank you.
Thank you.